Welcome to the Be Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw. This podcast is presented in 3 segments to support the energy of your authentic self. So whether you listen to them all at once or tap into each segment as you feel called, be sure to listen to each to help build the path to your authentic self. Today's topic is Truth Brings Choice, and our guest will be Tavane Taylor of Eclectic by Nature. But first, let's center in so we can tune into the Unclouded Heart segment of our show for spirit messages on today's topic, Truth Brings Choice. Allow yourself to come to a comfortable position, becoming fully aware of your soul and your body, and the emotions that connect. And start breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in and out, allow your body to relax, 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 relax. Moving into this space of relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe. So we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good, and the highest and best good of all involved. Truth brings choice. This is something that I bring up at the beginning of every reading that I do for every client. We can't fix or work on what we refuse to see. So by tuning in an honest and truthful way to ourselves, to the situations in front of us, to the environment that we're in, then it allows us to make choices based on what is versus what we wish should be. Authentic choice is never a reply or a react or a response. Authentic choice is seeing where we are in that moment and making choices and decisions and how we would like to grow from it, change it, connect with it, or otherwise alter it. Allowing us to understand that in that vision of truth, what just is, then we give ourselves power and empowerment. We give ourselves authentic choice and decision. We give ourselves the ability to create change from that space where we are. I always like to explain it in a way that's like allowing your GPS to map you to a city you've never been. You might know how to get out of your neighborhood. You might even know how to find the interstate. But if every time that you mapped your way to someplace new, it started at the highway instead of your house, then you would have a lot more thinking to do, a lot more planning to do, a lot more confusion, and maybe you don't know how to get to that part of the interstate. So then you stumble and find your way until you finally make it. And that's what making choices based on what we wish was going on instead of what is actually going on looks like. It's that stumbly, confusing, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole sort of action that eventually we might be successful at, or we may give up. But by looking at where we are right now, by tuning into the truth of ourselves and a situation, then it allows the truth to come forward in a way where we make more skillful, more in tune decisions. I also know that sometimes people use truth like a weapon. I'm a super honest and truthful sort of person, but what they really do is shoot an arrow out in their communication. And I'm here to say that we can express our truth and know that by speaking my truth, by speaking my needs, by speaking my side of something. It doesn't have to be a weapon or a shield or armor of any sort. It can be just as, I'm going to set this truth down right here. Meet me in that or don't meet me in that, but this is my truth. And then we take it out of that reactionary position. We take it out of fighting against something and shift it into fighting for what we believe is the truth, and allows the energy to come from within in those actions. Because each time we stick our hands out to guard against something or fight against something, we're taking energy that is within us and putting it into a different position. So if we allow ourselves to align in our center self and say, this is my truth, I've tapped into my core, into myself, into where I am in this moment, and this is where I am with this belief of this truth, then expressing it should be a calling in. It should be a calling forth instead of pushing against or fighting against. It is a statement of self that you can truly align with. We also have to remember that there's always our truth, another truth, and the absolute truth with a capital T, which gives us the ability to be able to change our minds or to be educated or to shift our point of view to align with the us of now in that moment. So as you're tuning into your truth and being brave enough to look straight at it, where are you in this moment, in this belief? Where are you in this moment, in this environment? Where are you in this moment of self? And setting into your truth, then you know you can present it in a way that comes from your authentic self.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Island of Salvation Botanica. A visit to the Island of Salvation Botanica will enlighten you in the rich blend of culture and spiritual traditions that is New Orleans. The shop carries Vodou religious supplies, medicinal herbs, works of art, and more. It's considered to be one of the most authentic Vodou shops in New Orleans by locals and visitors alike. Located in a project co-developed by Sally Ann Glassman, the New Orleans Healing Center on St. Claude Avenue is only steps away from the French Quarter. Stay tuned for a conversation about how truth brings choice with Tavane Taylor of Eclectic by Nature and Sky Bradshaw.
Welcome to the Skylight section of the Be Your Soul podcast. Today, I'm here with Tavane Taylor, as well as our producer, Audrey, and we are going to talk about Truth Brings Choice. Tavane is the proprietress of Eclectic by Nature, a specialty store for spiritual products and gift items in Greensboro, North Carolina, that recently celebrated its 20 years of service to the community. It includes metaphysics, Wicca, paganism, shamanism, voodoo, hoodoo, aromatherapy, herbal healing, Reiki, Huna, and more. So welcome to Tavane. I also have to say that at Eclectic by Nature, that was my first actual official paying tarot gig a very, very, very long time ago.
Yeah, baby. 20, we were celebrating our 20 years knowing each other.
It's the truth. So I love you and appreciate you and the work that you do in the community. So many seeds were planted in your fertile soil that have came to fruition. So that's amazing. You do good work.
Thank you. Thank you. I got a good community.
Yeah, we are part of a very good community.
Yes, we are.
So we're going to talk about Truth Brings Choice. And, when I was thinking of topics for different people, there wasn't anybody better that I could think of for the concept of truth brings choice. And that's one of my sayings that I always say when we think of, even when I started reading, I tell people truth brings choice. So we can't fix what we don't see. If we're not looking at things exactly where we are, then, we're 22 half steps to the left are still 11 steps off course. So each time we look at things from, an untruth position or our denial or those sort of non-center focuses, it gets us just a little bit off each time. And I think that you are a powerful soul when it comes to speaking your truth, living your truth, being your truth in whatever way. So my first question would be, what is the most important viewpoint that you believe about truth brings choice, and why speaking your authentic truth empowers your journey?
People respond to authenticity. People respond to truth, and maybe not always in the best way if it's a truth that they haven't realized yet, or it's just not part of their journey. But people definitely get it if you're being fake or, trying to fit in to your peg doesn't fit the hole, whatever. But yeah, doing my job at the shop, over the years, I've learned that I can be of more service to people if I'm just straight up with them. And I try to mix it with humor to make the truth a little more palatable. Love my swear words, my crazy granny sayings. But yeah, I just find that people recognize that. And it's like a cold glass of water on a hot day.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I feel like we also are, when we present our, the truth as we see it, or our truth, or that, that connection to truth, being authentic, as you said, like not only does it call them into being able to do that for themselves, like it gives permission for people around you to be authentic and to stand in their truth and to feel empowered. But it also allows for that, like, center point to be set that says, I trust you enough with my truth. I believe in you enough with my truth. I am presenting this truth in a, open palm, vulnerable way for you because I believe you can handle it. And that empowers people as well. Like that's, something that can really change the tune of things to a higher vibration. So that's always good.
I agree.
So what do you think about truth that we just tapped into it a little bit, but if someone were trying to become more authentic in their truth or shed some of those preconceived, societal beliefs that truth is sharp or harmful or, a direct punch in the nose, like most people, a lot of people, I wouldn't say most, people have that idea of like telling the truth is like, a jab in the gut instead of like, as you said, you can deliver it with humor or you can deliver it in a way that makes it easier to take in. Like what would your advice on people starting to be more authentic or starting to be more truthful be?
Well, I guess in my journey to being the most authentic I know how to be, I wasn't always like that. I was, there was definitely a time where I was people pleasing and wanting to be liked. And I think it's just through time in this body, on this place, that I allowed the desire for other people to like me to fall away, because if I wasn't presenting myself as myself, then if they like me, they don't really like me. So I guess figuring out what an individual's benefits are for them to be authentic, that would, figure that out.
Right.
And I think that's a different journey for everybody. And, being raised in a time when, because I was born in 1965, so being female and sharing your truth wasn't really a popular thing, and it's not how we were raised. We were raised to be nice and to defer to others, especially if they were older. and male. So I had that to overcome. I don't know if that's still as prevalent as it was way back when. But I think also taking a look at what was someone raised with, what were the, not even truths necessarily, what were the
societal habits and impressions.
Yeah. I mean, what was true in my family might not have been true in other families, but yeah, I think figuring out the family dynamic you were raised in and what were you told about truth, if anything.
Yeah. And those learned behaviors, I liken them to like having a backpack, and each time that, we collect or acquire a learned behavior, we put a rock in it, and so we, we're walking around with all these rocks of learned behavior, that, this is the example that we were given, or this is the lessons that we were taught that maybe aren't in alignment with our authentic self. And over, we're picking up these rocks, and soon like one side of our body is like leaning hard, but we're chugging along, we're still going forward. And, taking that backpack off sometimes can be really difficult, because then when we do get back into alignment, when we're not, those weights aren't holding us back, then we burst forward in a way that is also not authentic truth. So we have to find that like, okay, well, how do I unload this and still stay healthy? Like unload this and be able to see myself for all my value, my worth, and my connection, and not do it in a boastful or bragful way. Like, how do I, be present in who I am and not overrun others or lean back? Like, how do both of those? And I think that you do that really beautifully, where you're just like standing in your power, not overpowering, not shrinking in that space.
That became learned behavior for me, just trial and error.
Yeah. And you can replace that learned, but that's what you did, obviously, as you're saying, we replace that learned behavior. We may have been raised this way, or we may have been exposed to this in society, or we may have had these impressions put upon us, but little by little, the bird builds its nest. We can undo them just as they were done. And so that's always, I think that's a good place for people to start. That's a good advice you gave.
Well, this is Audrey jumping in. Certainly the messages that especially women receive in the mass media are just so insidious and take a lot of unlearning.
Yes.
It's true.
I agree. You got to get out there and find out a lot of that stuff is not true.
Right. And that, I think that plays into one of the universal lessons that we were working on the end of 22 that we're still working on in 23, which is what I call the original question. So when we have information that comes to us, or even, any sort of input in our world, like the first thing we should do is ask ourselves, how do I feel about that? Where does that sit inside of me? And like find your truth, because the example I use is, if your friend calls and says like, hey, you want to go to Mexican food for dinner? Like our immediate thought is, do I want Mexican food? Not like, do I want dinner? How do I feel? Like, where am I with this dinner thought process? And the answer may still be the same, but if you start where you are, if you start in your truth with that, then everything that comes past it is that authentic self. Like you said, when you were saying, well, who do they like? If I'm being what they want me to be, they don't like me. They like my, what I'm projecting and as a reflection. And so that original question in all things, if we can tune into that, like center self and say, how do I feel about this, thing that I'm seeing or thing I'm experiencing, and then move out, then we can definitely get some good work done. So you spoke a little bit about how in the past, you've evolved as a truth speaker. Is there one nugget, one story, one time where you really got an aha moment about if I would have, and I don't like the woulda, coulda, shouldas, but like, where you see yourself to say, oh, in that moment, a more skillful way of acting could have been this?
When I think about really being authentic with people, especially at the shop, it's always the same scenario. And, there's just the variation of who I'm talking to and what their specific story is. But it's always women and relationships. And I have a ridiculous amount of experience in that field, I feel like.
Same.
And usually, women are coming to me with, oh, I want so-and-so back, or so-and-so's with somebody, but I want that person. And used to be, I would just straight up not give them any sort of unsolicited advice. And I'd just be like, all right, do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like the way that felt. The more that I did it, I just felt more and more disingenuous. Mm-hmm. And so finally I was like, all right, well, sometimes I ask first, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm just so excited about this opportunity to not help. I don't like that word, help. Assist, if possible, someone with maybe shortening that particular journey of theirs. And I'll just be like, girl, please. I'm like, you're not with him for a reason. And so what, did you forget about the reason? I'm like, who cares if it makes all your lady bits excited? That's not most of your time. You need to think about the rest of your life. And I would give examples from my own life of how I had been in their shoes and I had done the thing that they were asking advice on about, how do I get so-and-so back? And I'm like, and every single time I was dissatisfied within a short period of time. Mm-hmm. And so, and again, I try to make it funny, and not lecture, but, just share and maybe be like, you have more worth than this. And I see it. So I really would invite you to see it because it's in there because I'm a total stranger. So, when I think about really being 100% me with people, it's usually in that scenario. That's the first thing I think about.
Yeah. And that, is a gift in itself, not only for you to be able to stay in that center, but for them, because oftentimes, humans, I say this all the time, humans are the only self-sabotaging creatures on the planet. If a bird sees a red berry, it's like, red berries are poisonous. No, thank you. Sally in the first episode said, well, I've seen my dog self-sabotage, and I went home and thought about that, and I was like, no, my dog doesn't go, if I eat this, I'm going to throw up. It's just like, that smells good. Like a human will be like, if I eat this, it's going to upset my stomach, but I'm going to eat it anyway. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we don't have that view of truth. Like, the person who has that tunnel vision of like, I lost something, I want it back, relationship wise or whatever. Like, sometimes they just don't get They can't see that, well, maybe they were gone for a reason. They can't see their keyhole view just keeps them in that one thought process. And I think it's a gift to be able to say to someone, well, have you even thought about this? Like, have you even, have you even seen the broad different paths that may be in front of you and why that might be happening? So I think that's always good. So I have 3 questions that I ask every guest. But before I do, is there anything else you want to say about truth or anything else you want to say about that, that truth brings choice?
I think for people that feel stuck in life, because I know there were plenty of times where I felt stuck, and being brave enough, because sometimes, especially in our modern world, it requires bravery to be oneself, to be authentic. And when I look back at all of those times where I just sucked it up and thought, all right, I'm just going to say or do this, what I perceive to be a hard thing, that it brought so many more gifts and beauty into my situation, whatever that situation was. And then I would look back and I would think, well, duh, that wasn't that hard. Why didn't I do this sooner? And just the more I had those experiences, the easier it became to now it's just, I don't even think about it that much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yep, just doing me, people.
Right.
Like it or go away.
Exactly. And that's that replacement behavior. You've created a habit, a positive, healthy habit, replacing the old, maybe not so healthy habit. So my three questions are, the first one being, what do you think it means to be your soul?
What do I think it means to be my soul? Okay, so the first thing that popped into my head was, well, I'm not sure. For the last couple of years, I'm not sure that a soul is a thing.
Oh.
I think the energy of a person is a thing. But when I think about soul, I think about this thing, inanimate thing, that, continues.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a question I've been asking myself lately of, we don't know.
No.
Not really. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that question. I guess I would say just as I have continued to grow and change throughout my life, honoring myself first, because if I can't honor myself, I'm not going to have it in me to truly honor others. So there you go.
Thank you. See, there's one of those Tavane truths that came forward right away. I love it. Example in motion. So what is one thing that you do no matter what for your self-care?
Water. I drink water. Stay hydrated. Dear God, staying hydrated is like, who knew that would affect so many things in my life? Yeah. Staying hydrated and then really not doing things I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. Like obligation is a bad word in my house.
Yeah.
It's right up there with like stupid, It's like, no, we're not obligated to do much, if anything. Now I can choose to do it and that's great, but just doing what feels like it's the best thing for me, with hopefully at the same time, not harming anything or anyone else.
Yeah. And I'm going to comment on water because I'm a big fan of water myself and staying hydrated because I believe that water is the conduit for change. So water is emotional. Water is, energetic. Water is physical, hydration as well. And so if we look at like the one thing we could do for ourself in general, respecting and honoring water intake and output is really, really important. Highest key to transformation happens on the waves of water. So what does centered and balanced look like in your life?
Okay. So say more about that.
Sure. So when you
center,
know how you feel, like when you know you're centered or when you know you're in balance, like when you tune into your center self, like when you hit that sweet spot of like feeling aligned, like what does that feel like to you? What does that look like to you, that spot?
Peaceful. I think feeling at peace as much as I possibly can, that's like my big ongoing goal. Mm-hmm. And so when I am at peace with my choices, with my lifestyle, with the decisions that I make, then I feel centered and balanced.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Striving for peace.
Yes, same. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a pleasure. I always like being in your space and connecting with you. Do you have anything, obviously, please tell everybody your website, but anything else coming up that you want to talk about, put out there into the universe to be heard?
So, the website, Talk about truth. I have a 20-year-old website and I don't plan on changing it. Right now it's kind of cool because it's kind of retro. So the website is eclecticbynature.com. Don't expect it to do a whole lot for you other than to get you the basics. But we have a psychic fair. We do psychic fairs throughout the warm weather period in Greensboro. So we do several over the course of the spring, summer, and fall. And so it'll be on the website, but also our Instagram page is really where most of the online action happens at the shop. And that's EBN, like Eclectic by Nature, _shop. That's our place.
And you guys also do live every day. You do a little Instagram live every day at 10 a.m., right?
Yes, I do.
Time.
God, you could. You want some crazy ass truth bombs? There you go. Because I've only had one cup of coffee. I'm barely awake. And so my filter isn't really activated yet. So you just never know what will come out of my mouth. And if your kids haven't heard swear words, you don't want them to listen.
Totally worth the listen, everyone. Totally worth the listen. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. For those,
you're welcome, Lovey.
I love you.
Production of the Be Your Soul podcast is made possible in part by Emerge Skin and Soul, located at 2002 North Elm Street in Greensboro, North Carolina. Emerge Skin and Soul is so much more than just skincare, because you are so much more than just your skin. Emerge believes in offering a skin-to-soul experience, working hand in hand with you to achieve your skincare and self-care goals from the inside out. Offering massage, Reiki, and customized skincare plans, coupled with holistic modalities that bring skin, heart, and whole body into balance and harmony. Visit emergeskinandsoul.com today to learn more and book your appointment. Stay tuned for a segment we call That's What Sky Says, with tools to help you use today's topic of truth brings choice in your daily life.
In this segment, I offer tools and guidance that I have found helpful in my practice, and maybe you will too. Today, we are going to work on an exercise from my Energetic Boundaries journal and course. I see boundaries as a way to speak our truth in a healthy and balanced way. When we have established healthy boundaries within ourselves, then we can expand those boundaries into our relationships. This exercise will help you identify your likes and dislikes, which equal to your truth in needs and wants. If we take a proactive view of these likes and dislikes, then they allow us to know ourselves and therefore know our truth, which we will in turn empower into communicating without conflict with others. Boundaries are a clear communication about how you would like to be loved. Let that sink in. My favorite thing to say is, if you don't know where you are, you can't plan where you're going. By identifying your likes and dislikes, you can build a strong foundation of asks and boundaries. This is true in interpersonal relationships, work situations, and everyday connections with people. Without this clear view of self, our boundaries are made situationally instead of from our core needs and beliefs. Boundaries that are reactionary are usually harder to instill and less listened to by those around us, while boundaries that are set as a precedent in how we would like to be treated can be long-lasting. It also takes less conflict energy to set a boundary from the precedent, although it does require consistent, persistent attention. Boundaries that are set from our true needs are established and connected with from within. Boundaries that are reactionary and situation-based work with finite energies outside of ourselves and therefore take more energy to set and maintain. Often we have a hard time identifying what we do like and can only identify what we don't like through previous experience. This may make sitting and considering what you like difficult, but it is the work that pays off in many ways. Doing this work is the first step in breaking the false belief that getting what you need means someone else must suffer, or vice versa. Untangling these beliefs is best done while having a fluffy cushion of self-trust and self-love to fall back on, especially when you are less than skillful in your choices, otherwise referred to as making mistakes. As I am sure I will say 1,000 times, trust is earned, even the trust of the self. So here are some tips to tune into while you are doing the work to identify your likes from a space of truth. 1, take time to truly know yourself. Write your own personal ingredients list. I also refer to this as being your own best friend. Sit and tune into your core values, archetypes, beliefs, passions, and purpose. Then write it out and read it over several times. If you can do this work, then you can know yourself better. If you don't know where to start with this is all laid out in an easy to connect to way in my Understanding Energy and Action course you can find in the virtual classroom. 2, take in with a neutral observance how others perceive you. Do this during the quiet times when there is no purpose for them to give their opinion of you. Like, how does your best friend introduce you to others? Or what does your coworker say when they describe you to a new hire? These spaces may let you see yourself in ways you have a hard time seeing yourself. Do this without judgment while also knowing your opinion of yourself is what matters most. 3, do self-check-ins to catch up with yourself as you grow and heal. What you like today may be very different from what you liked 5 years ago, and that's okay. This healthy reflective view allows you to see how far you have come, while also tuning into the needs of the you of now. 4, listen to yourself. Work on identifying and then trusting the 3 intuitions: carnal intuition, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn; true self, our sense of knowing, sometimes called women's intuition, but everybody has it; and prophecy, from deja vu to dreams to seeing into the future. In episode 5, I presented the 3 5s meditation, which is a great way to help you do this work. You can also find a bonus video of it on our YouTube outlining how to do the 3 5s. You can choose to do one or all of these suggestions to get you one step closer to your truth or being your own best friend. Then you can connect with yourself in a whole and healed way that allows you to spread that connection into your life. Want a little more? Our Patreon has early access listening and PDF workshops to match each episode's exercises for as little as $9 a month. Patreon is a great way to show your appreciation for the hard work and dedication that goes into bringing these messages to you. This exercise is just one of many in my Energetic Boundaries Journal and 4-month live course, which should start up again this fall. So be sure to sign up for my newsletter on our website to stay informed of the upcoming live classes at www.beyoursoul.org. You can also find links to the Patreon, virtual self-study energy courses, and more.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Be Your Soul podcast. This podcast is published on the 2nd and 4th Fridays of each month. We hope you'll like, follow, and comment on your podcast platform and share this podcast with your family and friends. You can stay connected in between episodes. Visit Be Your Soul Sky if you're on Facebook. On Instagram, it's Be Your Soul Podcast, and you'll find more information at our website, beyoursoul.org. This podcast is produced at Muddy Creek Studios.